At my wedding, MIL demanded my $8,500 monthly salary. If that's not okay, you can leave now. The wedding reception was a disaster. My in-laws were drunk, even though people around us were whispering about their behavior. They didn't seem to care and kept yelling at me. Well, I guess it's too late since you're already married, Jons' father said, his voice thick with alcohol. But if you want to be part of this family, you need to show us you have enough money. Yes, your dad is right, his mother chimed in, her voice shrill. Make sure to give us $1,000 a month as a new onus. I was stunned. I couldn't believe they would say such things at a wedding reception. My face went pale, and I just stared at them. My father, seeing my distress, grabbed the microphone from them. Enough is enough, he boomed. Don't you realize you're making fools of yourselves? My name is Sarah. I'm a 30-year-old office worker, currently dating a man named John, who is 32 years old. I met John through a friend who was worried about me being single. After dating for a year, John proposed, and now we were supposed to be married. I lost my mother when I was very young, and my father raised me by himself. He worked very hard to take care of all my needs. I didn't have many worries growing up, but losing my mom deeply hurt me. I was cautious with my emotions, which is why I hadn't really dated anyone since my school days. I even thought it would be okay if I stayed single forever. Then I met John. At first, I didn't feel any romantic feelings for him, even though he asked me out many times. John really cared about me though, and was always a gentleman. Slowly, I began to open my heart to him, and we started dating. He kept caring for me, and I felt very happy. He became very special to me, and I started thinking I wanted to be with him forever. Then he proposed, and we decided to get married. John understood everything about me and was always kind to me, no matter what. Don't worry if you're ever feeling unsure about something, he would say. I'll be here for you until you feel better. I love you, Sarah. You can count on me. His words moved me. He promised to make me happy for the rest of my life. Just being with him warmed my heart. If he cared that much for me, I thought I should do the same for him. When I told my father that we decided to get married, he was so happy that he cried. Wow, Sarah, you're finally getting married. I'm so happy for you, he said. Oh, Dad, you're being dramatic, I joked. Wow, I hadn't heard anything like that from you until now, he replied. I was always worried that you might never get married. Oh, really? I had no idea you were worried about that, I said. Well, every father worries about his daughter, you know. Anyway, congratulations, he said. Thanks, Dad, I replied. I was so happy to be congratulated by my dad, who had raised me by himself. I thought I would probably cry at the wedding, and my dad would probably cry even more since he was already crying now. With that, John and I started preparing for our wedding. We were both busy with our jobs, so our days were very hectic. We worked during the weekdays and made wedding preparations over the weekends. There was no time to rest. Our calendars were always full. On the rare day off, we were supposed to visit John's parents' house. I was going to meet them for the first time. John had come over to meet my father right after he proposed to me. Originally, I had planned to visit John's parents right after that to introduce myself, but they were very busy, and our schedules never matched. Finally, some time passed, and we managed to arrange a visit. As we arrived at his parents' house, I suddenly felt nervous. Don't worry, my parents are very kind, John reassured me. His words made me feel a bit better, and I rang the doorbell. It was his mother who opened the door. Mom, I'm home, John said. Welcome home, John. It's so good of you to come, his mother replied warmly as she talked with her son. I greeted her as politely as I could. Nice to meet you. My name is Sarah, and I'm John's fiancée. I see, so you're Sarah, she said. Her voice was much lower than when she spoke to Jon, and her smile vanished. She looked me up and down, as if judging me, then led us to the living room, where her cold attitude didn't change. "Sarah, I'm curious about what you bring to the table," she said. "Jon is our treasure and our only child. If you're going to marry him, you need to be a suitable wife. Are you worthy of him?" I was taken aback by her question. I hadn't expected such a cold attitude from my future mother-in-law and was at a loss for words. "You're going to join our family, you know," she continued. "Are you ready for that?" True, marrying Jon meant joining his family, but it's not like Jon's family were the Kennedys or some well-known high society family. It's not like I was marrying into a royal family. Why was I being asked to make such a commitment? Besides, I wasn't even going to live with them. I don't like being pressured with questions like these. As I was thinking about how to respond, his mother seemed impatient with my slow reply and scolded me harshly. "When I ask you a question, answer me right away." "You're so rude," she snapped. "I'm asking if you're ready for this." Despite feeling overwhelmed, I managed to say, I hope that Jon and I will support each other in our marriage." His mother was not convinced. "What a naive thing to say," she criticized. "You are just going to support each other. You are supposed to support Jon." After the ceremony, we planned to officially register our marriage, and Jon and I would become husband and wife. I cherished every moment and felt so happy. Time flew by, and soon it was time for the final part of the event. The bride, groom, and both sets of parents lined up to greet the guests. But I started to feel uneasy because of Jon's parents. We were all supposed to be standing in line, but his parents were wobbly on their feet. If you looked closely, you could see that their faces were bright red. They had drunk too much. Some relatives asked if they were okay. My in-laws were clearly drunk, but we had to wrap up the ceremony and get it over with. The moderator handed the microphone to me and Jon. Suddenly, Jon's mother snatched my hand away from him and yelled at me, like a professional wrestler in the middle of a challenge. "Listen to me, Sarah," she shouted. "After this wedding, you are going to devote yourself to us completely. Prepare yourself, because we are going to test you really hard." The guests started whispering to each other, and some even thought it was a joke and laughed. Then, Jon's father grabbed the microphone. "Sarah, don't you feel embarrassed to wear a dress like that?" he said. "It doesn't suit you at all, dear." "You should tell her the truth," his mother chimed in, as expected. The whispers among the guests changed in tone. I looked at Jon, hoping he would stop his father's rude comments, but Jon said he couldn't do that, and that his parents weren't doing anything wrong. It became clear he would never protect me from his parents in the future. That was the moment I realized it. I was certain of it. Even as the hall buzzed around us, my in-laws were drunk and continued to insult me. "Well, you're already married, but if you're going to be part of this family, you need to prove that you have enough money," I said. "Yes, that's right," they continued. "After you register your marriage at the city hall, you should give us a few thousand a month and your entire bonus." I was shocked by their words. I never thought they would say such things at our wedding reception. I just stared at them, feeling my face go pale. My father took the microphone from them. "Enough of this. Don't you realize you're making fools of yourselves?" he said. Though still showing some respect, his parents glared at my father. "Why are you interrupting us while we're talking?" they asked. I knew this woman's father was no good. "Single parents are never any good," they said. Why did they talk like this? How dare they insult my father? I thought. My father, keeping his cool, replied, "You people are even worse than I imagined. You even refuse to meet me because I am a single father. I never thought that someone like you would work for President Adams. President Adams is such a respectable person. I assumed his employees would be decent as well. At that, my father-in-law's face turned very serious. How do you know President Adams? He asked. He's a business partner of my company, and more importantly, an old friend of mine, my father explained. And speaking of single parents, President Adams was raised by his mother alone. So you just insulted the president of the company you work for. Seeing my in-laws' faces fall at my father's words, I realized they finally understood the mess they had gotten themselves into. I apologized. Please don't tell the president about this, my father-in-law pleaded, suddenly falling to his knees. Just moments before, he had acted like he was in charge, but now he looked defeated. I could hear laughter from the guests. Some even pulled out their cell phones to record the scene. No matter how much you apologize, you can't take back your words, my dad said. He walked over to me and asked if I wanted to go home with him. Yes, I said, and took the microphone from Jons' hand. Thank you for the great entertainment, but there will be no marriage, I announced to Jon, his parents, and everyone who attended. I will make sure to return the money you gave us for this occasion. Then, I left the reception hall with my dad. I caught a glimpse of Jon and his parents looking dismayed, and soon after, his relatives rushed over with worried expressions on their faces. The place must have been in complete chaos. As I returned their money, I apologized to the guests. They all expressed sympathy for me and praised me and my dad for our actions, saying it was good that we weren't taken advantage of by such terrible people. Later, Jon's co-workers, who had attended the reception, must have spread the word about what happened at his company. Jon became known for having such unreasonable parents and was criticized for having a weak character. His embarrassment was so great that he resigned voluntarily. Of course, the president of my father-in-law's company found out about the incident. Jon's father was demoted and sent to an insignificant division of the company, transferred to a remote office in the countryside. I heard that Jon's family has been ostracized by all his relatives because of what happened at the wedding. While it's unfortunate, it really was their own doing, and sometimes things like that just can't be avoided. In the meantime, I've been using this opportunity to strengthen my relationship with my dad. We've been spending more quality time together, and it's helped me appreciate all he's done for me even more. One day, he sat me down for a serious talk. "Sarah, are you interested in running the business?" he asked, looking at me with a mixture of hope and seriousness. "Do you mean?" I started, a bit unsure where he was heading with this. "Why don't you work towards becoming the president of my company?" he suggested. It was a big step, and he seemed to believe I was ready to take it on. "I'll do my best," I promised him, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. I decided then to focus on stepping up my game at work, rather than getting entangled in romantic relationships for now. I wanted to prove to myself and to my dad that I could excel, and perhaps one day be a great leader like him. Currently, I am deeply involved in learning everything I can at my dad's company. The work is challenging but fulfilling, and I'm determined to make the most of this opportunity. Reflecting on the wedding fiasco, it's clear that Jon's in-laws were quite unreasonable, turning what should have been a beautiful event into a spectacle. Thankfully, since the marriage wasn't officially registered, I was spared from a legally binding mistake. Now free from any marital ties and with no looming in-law issues, I can focus solely on my career aspirations. It's a relief to know that out of a chaotic situation came a clear path forward for me. I look forward to what the future holds, and I'm excited about the potential of leading the company. I wish myself all the best and hope that anyone watching this story can take something valuable from it. Thank you for staying till the end. Please consider subscribing if you enjoyed this story, and I hope to see you in the next video.